My mum and I have a complicated relationship. She was a single mother and was at best neglectful and at worst hurtful. She'd send me to school with the flu and a 104-degree fever because she wouldn't believe me when I said I was sick. I had terrible vision, but she waited 3 years to take me to the optometrist. Everything had to be perfect, and there was a constant threat that no one was allowed to think that anything was wrong, or else people would take us away. I was expected to be perfect in everything, and any time I failed or was a bit slow, she would go on a rant about how much of a burden I was because she had to teach me basic things. I was a constant disappointment because the things she demanded were just unrealistic for a kid to know without being taught. My siblings didn't have this kind of pressure. It was only me. I'm okay now. I don't carry a grudge, and I've learned to let it go in one ear and out the other. And she's mostly not saying things, primarily because I don't invite her into my home, and because while we see each other maybe every other week, we don't spend extended periods of time together. Except earlier this year we lost everything due to the inflation. We lost our business, but most importantly we lost the house. We were basically homeless with 2 children. We were allowed to stay with her and my stepfather for a month until we could get back on our feet. During this extended stay, she started falling into old habits. Everything I did was analysed and every mistake found and commented on. The thing is that my 13-year-old is super observant, and one day he asked, "Why do you always say my mum is useless?" My mum loves being a grandmother, and where she sucked as a mum, she is a good grandma. She was very hurt by my son's observation and vehemently denied it, but my son held firm, and since then, he's been keeping an eye on her. My mum feels uncomfortable with this and wants me to tell my kid he's imagining things, but I really don't want to do that. I'm super proud of him for being able to spot her behaviour, and I don't want to jeopardise this skill because it's going to be useful to him in the future. I've talked to him and told him that while I appreciate him trying to stand up for me, I don't need him to fight my battles, and that I'm perfectly aware that what my mom says is BS, so it doesn't hurt me. I don't want him feeling responsible for me or like he needs to protect me. My brother is now butting in and telling me that I should just tell him that he's imagining it, or tell him to pretend that nothing is wrong because it's almost Christmas, and it would be silly to keep creating tension with this. I still refuse. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. There is no reason to be anything but completely honest here. Your mother and brother need to face the truth and all of the awkward feelings involved with that. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You are in the right not to gaslight your son. It touches my heart that such a young person can stand up for his mum. Comment 3. Not the idiot, and what a great mum you are. Both your brother and your mother are A8s. Now, for the update. After my last post, my son's confrontation with my mother opened the floodgates. The next day we had a family meeting, no holds barred. My mother tried to dismiss my son's words as childish nonsense, but I wasn't having any of it. My brother, the eternal peacemaker, tried to mediate, but this time I stood my ground. I laid it all out. Every pent-up grievance from years of her belittling me came pouring out. It was raw and intense, and I won't lie, it shook me to my core. The fallout was immediate. My mother, unaccustomed to being called out, spun into a tirade, and the tension that had simmered beneath the surface erupted. It was like a pressure cooker blowing its lid. She denied everything, of course, and then, in what I can only describe as a moment of pure spite, she told us to leave. We were stunned. There we were, with nowhere to go, and she was kicking us out right before the holidays. But that's when the unbelievable happened. My brother, who had always taken her side, finally saw the light. He told her she was being unreasonable and that her behaviour was out of line. He offered to take us in, said he couldn't stand by and watch her repeat the cycle of abuse he'd turned a blind eye to for so long. So, we moved in with my brother. It's tight quarters, but the warmth and support have been a balm for our spirits. My son, bless him, has been my rock. He's handling the upheaval like a champ, but the drama didn't stop there. A few days into our stay at my brother's place, my mother showed up unannounced. She had a meltdown on the front lawn, crying and apologising. It was a public spectacle, and neighbours came out to see what the commotion was about. It was embarrassing, but also somehow cathartic. The apologies seemed genuine, but I've kept my guard up. We had a long, tearful conversation, and while I'm cautious about her sudden change of heart, we've agreed to start family therapy after the holidays. It's a small step, but it feels like progress. And in a turn of fate, I received a call from a former colleague. A job opportunity had opened up, and they recommended me for the position. I interviewed and was offered the position on the spot. It feels like a fresh start, not just for me, but for my little family unit as well. The holidays are going to be different this year, quieter, and with my brother instead of my mother. But I think that's okay. Sometimes the universe forces your hand, and you have to roll with the punches. I'm just grateful that out of all this chaos, we might finally be on the path to healing. Now for the comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. You're allowed to set boundaries with your mother, especially if her behavior is toxic. It's great that your brother supported you and that you're getting a fresh start. Your mum showing up unannounced is a bit intrusive, but it seems like she's making an effort with the therapy suggestion. Stick to your boundaries and good luck with the new job. Comment 2. You're the idiot for not giving your mum a chance to explain herself before moving out. People make mistakes, and it sounds like she's trying to make amends by apologizing and suggesting family therapy. Moving in with your brother may have been a bit rash without trying to resolve things first. Comment 3. Not the idiot at all. It's heartwarming to see your brother step up when you needed it most, and it's a positive sign that your mother is willing to go to therapy, even if her apology was a bit dramatic. Plus, a new job opportunity? That's the universe telling you that you're on the right path. Keep your head up and embrace the fresh start. Now for the next story. I have a friend who is 10 years older, and recently we made a plan to have lunch together to celebrate both our birthdays that are 1 week apart. She told me to book at 11:30 a.m, but when I went to book they only had bookings from 12 p.m. onwards. I called her 3 days before the event and asked if 12 p.m. was okay, and she said yes. She mentioned that she has a church fundraiser that she was going to, but she would be at lunch, and the event wasn't far from the restaurant. I arrived at the restaurant just before 12 and went in and sat at our reserved table. Just before 12:10 p.m, I messaged my friend and said I was here and waiting. At 12:20 p.m, she messaged me back saying she was held up and would be there in 15 minutes. My response was, "Damn, I've already been waiting 20 minutes." She did apologize, as she mostly does when she's late. Twice the waitress came over and asked if I would like to order, and I said no thanks, she should be here any minute. By 12:40 p.m, she still had not arrived or messaged me any updates, so I messaged her suggesting we make it another time. No response. At 12:45 p.m, I messaged her again and said that 45 minutes was too long to wait and I was leaving. I picked up the gift I had brought for her and left. At 12:50 p.m, I received a missed call and message from her saying she was outside on the deck. I told her the booking was for the inside section and asked me if I'd already left. I was too angry to respond, and she has not called me or tried to contact me since 4 days ago. Take into consideration, I work 12-hour shifts and my days off are important to me. I also moved a few things around that morning to make sure I wasn't rushing to get to lunch. I have a feeling she's going to try and pin this on me as I walked out. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Imagine how long she would have kept you waiting if you had booked at 11:30. She should not have planned 2 activities so close together in one day. This is her fault. Comment 2, not the idiot. She should have called or texted the moment she knew she was going to be late instead of you having to keep trying. She's not much of a friend. Comment 3, not the idiot. She couldn't look around for you, and that late, you're better off without her. Now for the update, remember how I walked out because my friend was a no-show? Well, 2 days later, I get a text from them with a photo attached. It's a picture of a handwritten apology and 2 tickets to a concert I've been dying to go to. Turns out they felt super guilty and wanted to make it up big time. I'm flawed, right? But still a bit upset, so I take a day to think it over before I reply. Next thing I know, before I even get a chance to respond, our mutual friend calls me up and says, "Birthday lunch friend was in a minor car accident the same evening we were supposed to meet." Nothing life-threatening, thank goodness, but they were pretty shaken up and spent the night at the hospital for observation. Now I'm feeling like the world's biggest heel for ghosting them. I call them up immediately, and we have this long, emotional talk. They explain that they mixed up the sections of the restaurant because they were distracted by a stressful family call they got just before our meeting. We patch things up and decide to go to the concert together. The night is fantastic, like nothing I've ever experienced, and it's like the universe is giving us a second chance at celebrating our birthdays. We're dancing, singing, the works. But wait, it gets crazier. After the concert, we're leaving the venue, and we run into this person who lost their wallet. My friend spots it on the ground. We look through it to find some ID, and it turns out to belong to a local celebrity. We track them down to return it, and this celeb is so grateful, they invite us out for drinks. The entire night was surreal, drinks with a celebrity, laughing over the past misunderstandings, and realizing that sometimes things fall apart just so they can fall back together in the most unexpected and amazing ways. It's been a roller coaster of 2 weeks, but in the end it really strengthened our friendship. Life is wild, folks. Now for the comments. Comment 1, not the idiot. Your initial reaction to leave was based on the information you had at the time. It's natural to feel upset when someone stands you up, especially on your birthday. The fact that you were able to reconcile after learning about the car accident shows maturity. Plus, returning the wallet was a kind act which led to an unexpected reward. Your story is a reminder that things can turn around quickly. Comment 2. You're the idiot for walking out without even waiting to hear an explanation. Sure, being stood up hurts, but friendship is about communication and understanding. Your friend clearly cared enough to apologize and offer concert tickets, which shows they value your friendship. It was a mistake to act on impulse without all the facts. Comment 3. Not the idiot at all. You couldn't have known about the accident, and it's the thought of being forgotten on your birthday that stings. Plus, it all ended well, didn't it? You patched things up and even had an unexpected adventure. It's like they say, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. You both made the best out of a bad situation and came out stronger. Cheers to that. Now, for the next story. My 35-year-old father-in-law, who is 63 years old, moved to a different country to be with a partner. In that time, his parents have died, and when his relationship ended, he asked my 32-year-old wife, his daughter, to come and stay with us while he sorted himself out. 4 months later, he still lived with us and showed no sign of moving out. My wife and I agreed that since he was earning a good wage now, we needed to increase his rent to just below the market rate for a room in this area, to encourage him to think he might as well get his own place if he's paying that much here. I know it's our own fault for not just being more direct and telling him he needs to move out, but he is very sensitive and always on the verge of a breakdown or blowing up. His job does mean he's away for half the week, so he was very surprised when the rent went up, despite practically living here for free prior to that and him now being on a better wage than my wife. Since then, he has been doing weird things like doing his laundry at a laundromat, buying a portable heater instead of using central heating. We think now he was trying to reduce the amount he was costing, so the increase in rent would be even more outrageous. Anyway, he left for work, but one of our cats was stuck in his room after he left, so we opened the door. We saw he'd left a pile of rubbish, including takeaway containers, which stank. My wife texted him pointing this out. He said, "Fine, I'll move out when I get back." He was angry she'd been in his room and felt that it was invading his privacy. We did say, "Well, actually, that's our spare room. You're only staying in it until you find your own place." This led to loads of messages accusing us of making him feel unwelcome, patronised, and it being unfair for charging rent when he was away half the week. My wife over the week gave him multiple opportunities to say he was coming back as he had nowhere else to go, but he just said she'd given him no choice. Come the day he was supposed to return, we waited. He didn't come back. My wife texted and said, "If you're not coming back, you should come and get your stuff." He said, "Burn it. You've seen me out on the street. I'm sleeping in my car. Your nan would be ashamed of you." We knew he'd been paid that day. We drove around and saw he'd parked at the end of our road and was sleeping in his car. She said one last time, "That was a vile thing to say." She nursed her nan through cancer while he lived abroad. "But you can come back to give yourself a bit of time to find somewhere to live." He said, "No, because you've turned on me," so we left him to sleep in his car. The next day, once he'd proved his point, in my opinion, he went to a hotel. Now he's telling all the extended family we left him homeless and he had to sleep in his car. I don't feel bad, but my wife is feeling guilty. We both know if we had pleaded for him to come back and apologise to him, he'd have probably agreed to move back in. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. He literally chose to sleep in his car. There isn't anything more to it. If he wants to throw a tantrum, let him. It'll give him the motivation to actually move out because he now feels uncomfortable. Comment 2, not the idiot. If the other family members want to take him in, let them. Comment 3, not the idiot. Don't let him guilt trip you into taking him back. Now for the update. It's been a few months since my last post about the situation with my father-in-law, and I felt it was time to share the unexpected turn of events with this community, who've been so supportive. Things escalated after my last post. Jeff, my father-in-law, did spend a few nights in his car, but a conversation with my wife's aunt turned things around. She reached out to us after hearing about the situation and suggested we all meet to clear the air. We agreed, skeptically, but it was the best decision we could have made. At the meeting, Jeff apologised. He admitted he'd been unfair and stubborn because of his pride and the embarrassment of his situation. Unbeknownst to us, he'd also been battling depression after his relationship ended, which contributed to his behaviour. My wife and I listened, hearts heavy with guilt for not seeing the signs earlier. We apologised too for the increased rent and not being more understanding. With everything out in the open, Jeff surprised us by revealing he had been saving up from the job he found a while ago, thanks to a lead from a neighbour, and was close to affording a deposit on a small apartment. But he didn't want to leave things unresolved. He asked if he could stay for 2 more months while he secured the place, and we agreed. Those 2 months changed our relationship. We started having family dinners, Jeff helped around the house more, and the tension eased into something comfortable. When the time came, Jeff moved into his new apartment, which was only a 15-minute drive away. He insisted on paying the last 2 months' rent in full as a gesture of gratitude, the most heartwarming part. Last week we went over to his place for dinner. It was modest but cosy, and Jeff had cooked everything himself. There was laughter, shared stories, and an ease between us that hadn't been there before. As we left, Jeff hugged us both and said, "Thank you for not giving up on me." We're closer now than we've ever been. Jeff's become an invaluable part of our lives, and we're helping each other in ways we hadn't imagined. It's funny how things work out when you face them together, with a bit of patience and a lot of forgiveness. Now for the comments. Comment 1. Not the idiot. It's heartwarming to see a family come together during tough times. Depression is no joke, and it's great that Jeff was open about his struggles. Giving him a place to stay probably saved him in more ways than one. Family dinners sound like a fantastic way to bond. Good on you for showing empathy and patience. It's what family is all about. Comment 2. You're the idiot for even considering not helping Jeff in the first place. Depression is a serious illness, and he was clearly in need. It shouldn't have taken a conversation with an aunt to see that. Everyone deserves a second chance, especially family. Glad you turned it around, but don't pat yourself on the back too hard. Comment 3. Not the idiot. You did more than what many would have done. Opening your home, adjusting your life, and helping Jeff get back on his feet shows tremendous character. It's not easy living with someone going through a rough patch, but you managed it with grace and came out with a stronger family bond. Cheers to new beginnings and healing relationships. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.